we're going to begin again with some meditation. So you sit comfortably, relax your body, relax your mind. Place your attention on your respiration. And within that calm state of mind, try to recall resolve that we've tried to develop many times of bodhicitta. Whatever actions I do this lifetime, I'll try to motivate that they have a result to bring about my own enlightenment quickly for the welfare of all sentient beings. Recognizing how short this life is, the inevitability of death, I'm going to meditate on the stages of gradual death, as we might do in the stages of the path, also in the context of Tantra. So recall, I'm definitely going to die. There's no way that I can avoid it. There's no way that any sentient being, other than attaining enlightenment, that they can avoid dying. So imagine our own future death, whether we're seated in meditation, or lying on a bed, in some other circumstance. First of all, the form aggregate and the earth element dissolve. That is to say, the air supporting them, absorbing to the center of our being, toward the heart chakra, lessen the solidity of the body. The body begins to lose its strength. We look, from the outside, we look more emaciated. The mirror-like wisdom of the basis, the basic time, not yet the Buddha's mirror-like wisdom, but this also absorbs. To our mental consciousness, appears the vision of mirage, also as the eye faculty is absorbing so that we can't see things as clearly. But if we focus on the mental consciousness at this time, very subtle appearance. If we can let go of other disturbing thoughts, we can see something that's appearing from its own side, like the wavering light of a mirage. Indication that the earth element is absorbing, dissolving into the water element. That is, the water element is having a stronger vibration as earth diminishes. I think just before this, I was not yet in the near signs of death. Next, the water element will absorb, and I'll see the smoke vision, but right now I see the mirage vision. I need to use this mind now to meditate on emptiness, to have a mindfulness, to carry that mindfulness of emptiness to the clear light of death, so that I can mix the mother and sun clear lights. So even though there is the appearance to the mental consciousness of mirage, we can still, within that mind, we can meditate on emptiness and supersede that appearance. You can think of the emptiness of the appearance itself, that it, although it appears to have some existence from its own side, it's merely arising because of karma. Even that appearance that arises from karma has no real existence as being a mirage, or the appearance of a mirage. It's something that's merely labeled by the mind, in the same way that the self appears very clearly, seemingly very clearly to our mind. A self that's not merely imputed to the body and mind, a controller on one level, very subtle level, something that is truly existent, existing from its own side, as though findable if sought within the aggregates, something tangible and concrete. Such an I, such a truly existent I, does not exist. The I that does exist, self, is empty of such a truly existent I, because the self, like the mirage, is a dependent arising. So see if you use this subtle mind, observing the sense of self, recognizing if the self, for instance, using other reasonings, if the self existed in this way, it would be findable as either oneness with the aggregates or a complete inherent difference from the aggregates. If it were one with the aggregates, there would have to be many eyes, many cells, as there are many aggregates. If it were completely different than the aggregates, inherently different, it would have no connection with them whatsoever. And if the aggregates experienced some touch, for instance, if the body experienced touch or the prick of a pin, we wouldn't say, I've been stuck. So with this subtler mind now, still a gross mind, but subtler than before, try to recall the appearance of a vacuity, which is the meaning of emptiness, the appearance of emptiness to our mind, the mere non-existence, non-findability of such a truly existent I. Mind very calm. After some time, by its own accord, the water element begins to absorb, along with the aggregate of feelings. Sense consciousnesses no longer can experience completely the feelings of pleasure, pain, or equanimity, equal feeling. The ear faculty absorbs, and the ear consciousness can no longer hear things in their totality. The basic wisdom of equanimity that recognizes, for instance, on one level, that all feelings, whether they be pleasurable or painful and so forth, are equal as being feelings, that absorbs. The liquid of the body that is supported by the body begins to dry up, the lubrication of the eyes and other parts of the body. The mouth becomes dry, the nostrils. And there appears to our mental consciousness now that we're aware of this, the appearance of smoke. In a sense, a smoke-filled room in which, or smoke-filled area within which there are billows of smoke rising to the subtle mental consciousness that's not distracted by other thoughts can begin to observe this. Think, I'm approaching death. I'm going to try to utilize this period to meditate on emptiness so that I can recognize the clear light of death. Mix the sun clear light with the mother clear light. Previously the earth element absorbed, now the water element is absorbing. I have the smoke appearance. Next the fire element will absorb, and I'll have the fireflies or spark-like appearance. So think alternately that either this appearance that seems so real to the mind as having some inherent existence, even if we don't conceive of it as existing exterior to ourself, seeming to have some real existence, is a mere imputation. Also our aggregates, the basis for imputing the person. That we'd already meditated on as being empty. The form aggregate, for instance, as in the Heart Sutra, form is empty. The sense of a solidity of the form element is an appearance to our mind, kind of a truly existent form existing from its own side, findable. But when we search for it, we can't find the form aggregate anywhere in any of its parts. Form is just a name we label to this collection of parts. Form aggregate, all the aggregates are empty of true existence. So to your mental consciousness, if one were meditating on emptiness in this way, there would appear only the vacuity, which is a non-affirming negation, just the mere absence of, say, form as being truly existent. The smoke vision would not be appearing, would not be apprehended to this consciousness right now as you're concentrating on this emptiness. And slowly, the fire element and the aggregate of discrimination begin to dissolve into what's called the air element, because that's what will be more vibrant as the fire element absorbs, dissolves. Previously, the water element was absorbing. We had the smoke appearance. Now, we're having to our subtle consciousness, the appearance of sparks or fireflies. Next, the appearance of a burning lamp when the air element absorbs. Also, the nose faculty is absorbing, dissolving. The ability to perceive odors through the nose consciousness is becoming less possible. The basic wisdom of individual analysis absorbs. The breathing becomes more erratic, not yet stopping, but the inhalation short, exhalation greater. The heat of the body, as the fire element is absorbing, begins to diminish, hopefully from our feet first, up toward our heart. If we have a tendency of having performed virtuous actions in this lifetime, perhaps have a greater tendency of upper rebirth. But the body is becoming colder, digestion stopping. There's a subtle appearance to the mental consciousness of sparks of light or fireflies. As the mind is becoming subtler, we try to recognize this appearance like all the appearances of my lifetime. The appearance of the self, the appearance of the aggregates. This appearance does not exist from its own side. It's empty of existing from its own side because it's a dependent arising. It's arising because of causes and conditions, being named by my consciousness merely as this appearance of fireflies. So I'm going to try to meditate on emptiness, the emptiness of this appearance. like during our life, whatever appearances come to the mind, one can think in general, whatever is fearful and so forth. Although they have causes and conditions to arise, they are devoid of the meaning that we attribute to them as having some kind of findability, real existence from the outside. And gradually, the air element begins to absorb, getting closer to death. The aggregate of compositional factors, basic wisdom of accomplishing activities. One no longer clearly has a goal in mind. While the air element's absorbing, both the tongue and body faculties absorb. The tongue thickens, the body is no longer able to experience feelings, smoothness and roughness and so forth, tactile sensations. The breathing is stopping completely now. There appears to the mental consciousness of an undistracted mind the appearance of a dying dying lamp. Through the force of having meditated earlier in this succession, try to recall, while there's still some mindfulness, while there's still some conceptual activity, previously the fire element absorbed, next, after the air element, the 80 indicative conceptions will absorb into consciousness, and the white appearance will arise. I must meditate on emptiness. What is appearing to my mind, my mental consciousness here, is not existing outside, has no findable existence of a dying butter lamp. Its existence is a mere conventionality, merely imputed by the mind as even an appearance. Like the self, like the aggregates, like all phenomena, ultimately not findable within their bases of imputation. Further, now the 80 indicative conceptions, conceptual minds absorb together. The mind's becoming less distractible. The conscious element, the consciousness aggregate absorbs, and the basic wisdom of Dharmadhatu absorbs. Again, there's the appearance of the dying butter lamp to this very subtle mind. Whatever appearances now arise to the consciousness, try to use the very appearance itself to recall the vacuity, the emptiness of appearances. Whatever appears is empty of existing from its own side. The basic wisdom that has impelled us in cyclic existence, the grasping to true existence, has a conceived object, an object that it's grasping to, some kind of true or inherent existence. That conceived object is void, is empty. The heirs of the body now, of the 72,000 nadis, having congregated mainly in the two side nadis, those at the upper part, above the heart in the right and left channels, ascend to the crown, enter in there, loosening the knot of the crown chakra, and the white element at the crown begins to descend. Naturally there appears now even subtler mind of white appearance, empty. Like an empty sky filled with the vibration of moonlight. By the force of having meditated previously on emptiness, try to simulate here the recognition, the mindfulness, that this too, this appearance, having a certain vacuous quality, sort of an empty quality, even the whiteness that appears is not truly existent. And use this subtle mind to meditate on emptiness. We must remember that at the time of the clear light of death. And the heirs that have congregated in the right and left channels below the heart descend to the secret place, secret chakra, near the base of the spine on the central channel, and to the chakras within the, what's called the jewel, the sexual organ of the male, for instance. Those chakras loosening, the heirs enter into the central channel, ascend to the navel, loosening the navel chakra. And the red element there begins to ascend. We experience a greater vacuity, now pervaded by a subtler vibration of reddish orange light, copper-like light. No sense of a self, no sense of activities of this lifetime. Very subtle mind. Try to be mindful of this vacuity pervaded by this red light, and let it remind us of the emptiness of all phenomena. There is no phenomena existing from its own side. The red light itself has a conventional existence merely imputed by the mind. As the white and red drops descend and ascend to the heart chakra, the airs entering into that, loosening the sixfold knot at the heart chakra, and the white and red drops covering the indestructible white and red drops at the heart chakra. We begin to experience the black near attainment. Earlier we experienced empty during the white appearance, very empty during the red increase. Now it's called great empty. Like a sky no longer polluted by the illumination of white or red light. At dusk, first having some mindfulness, we try to meditate again. Even this black appearance that seems to be unavoidable and truly existent, this too is a mere appearance, is merely existing conventionally, it has no true existence. No existence findable from its own side of black. Like all phenomena. I must remember emptiness at the time of the clear light of death. Now all the airs having entered into the heart chakra, into the indestructible drop, the white and red drops covering the indestructible drop there, we fall into the second phase of the black near attainment. Deep, unmindful state in which the consciousness seems to disappear completely, gross consciousness. Then slowly these white and red drops just separate a little. The airs having entered into the indestructible subtle wind at the heart chakra. All of the consciousness, gross consciousness absorbing, subtle consciousness is absorbing there. The very subtle, most subtle consciousness of clear light begins to dawn right at your heart chakra. Becomes manifest. No conceptualizing minds, a total vacuity, which is not the actual appearance of emptiness, but is similar to that. And by the force of having meditated previously on all these appearances, meditated on emptiness, now we recognize by the force of mindfulness the meaning of this vacuity, which is similar to the emptiness we meditated on before. And our subjective clear light mind is a mixture of the mother clear light of death, this appearance, along with the sun clear light that we have cultivated in meditation previously, that recognized the meaning of emptiness. So with this subtle clear light, we have the fully qualified clear light of death. No sense of ego, and a very deep imprint being made in the mind, if we are able to do this, of the meaning of emptiness, imprinted on our subtlemost consciousness. Through the practice of Tantra, previously, we might develop the divine pride of this being, Dharmakaya. It's one of the meanings of taking the Dharmakaya as a path, mixing it with the death state of clear light. Think how wonderful it would be if I could die in this way, not afraid of death, actually looking forward to this because of having practiced this lifetime, and that I could use this situation to enhance my spiritual progress, to become less a harm to others, overcoming my anger and attachment by realizing emptiness, developing an equanimity and a heartwarming love for all sentient beings, by seeing there's no real self of my own to cherish more than others. For that purpose, in order to develop the two bodhicittas, the conventional bodhicitta, altruistic mind of enlightenment, and the ultimate wisdom that realizes emptiness within the mind stream of one who's developed conventional bodhicitta. I'm going to participate in the class tonight for the welfare of all sentient beings, quickly, so that I can quickly attain enlightenment, to spontaneously and effortlessly work for their benefit. And bring your attention back. Breath. Sometimes people, they do different kinds of courses of yoga and other health courses and things like that for healing. I think those are good. I remember teaching in Switzerland one time a lady who taught yoga, was it Iyengar kind of yoga, and she was thinking, oh, this is better than the meditation. You know, the meditation's so hard, it doesn't seem so relevant. But actually, I don't know if you think about it, it seems meditation is much more deep. This kind of meditation is a much deeper kind of healing, ultimate healing. Whatever you do with your body this lifetime, whatever food you eat or diet you have, or, I don't know, opening your third eye or whatever, all are kind of transient events that don't necessarily have benefit for your future body, your future mind. They may not actually benefit you and other sentient beings. So this is like the real healing, trying to overcome our self-interest and develop a real compassion, a heartwarming love for others, an understanding of their plight exactly the same as ours. Even if sometimes we have competitive mind with others. I remember Lama Yeshe saying once, when I think I had some negative thoughts about another person, thinking, why are they having this particular, honor or, success or something? And Lama said, we're all going to the same destination, dear. So, whatever, it's not as though some people are higher than us even now. We're all going to the same destination. And so sometimes the bodhisattvas, if they are the bodhisattvas of, remember the different kinds of bodhisattvas, the king-like bodhisattva, king-like bodhicitta, and, what's it called? The shepherd-like bodhisattva, yeah? Faring. Is that three, or is there? That's the shepherd-like. So the ferrying, the king-like bodhisattva thinks, I will attain enlightenment first and lead sentient beings to enlightenment. And the boatman-like thinks, we'll go together. I'll take them along. We'll all get there together. The shepherd-like thinks, all sentient beings I'm going to help to get them into the corral of enlightenment first. Then I will be able to sit down and have my taka. Is that what the New Zealand say? Is that the right pronunciation? I'm going to have some taka. Food. Sustenance. What do you say in Scotland? Do you have some?
Oh, that's right.
I was asking Venerable. You don't know what's in Scotland. She knows. Food. Gonna slan. Have some slan. So you're not going to have your slan until everyone else has had their slan. Whatever that means. What? Slan. Okay. Okay. Well, tell me later. Okay. We'll get it. Otherwise, we'll spend the whole time getting pronunciation of Scottish words. So I think that's ultimate healing. So how about any questions people have about what we've done? We've just finished last time the process of death. And who can explain to Crash, because Crash wasn't here last couple classes, what's actual death? Who can I ask? The Sister Thea will know. What's the definition of death in this context? What's actual death?
The dissolution of all the winds and the clear light.
So it's the process of the dissolution, or what's actual death?
Actual death is the dissolution of all the winds.
So while the
in
winds are
system.
dissolving, that's actual death.
No.
Okay, so it's not the
Dissolved.
dissolution of the winds.
It's the complete, all the winds have been dissolved into the,
Well, you might not even have to say that, right? What's the actual death? What you're getting at? The clear light.
yes.
So the clear light state, although the mind is still within the body, let's say when you talk about death from a human body, that's the actual death state that we try to transform into the Dharmakaya. It's the actual clear light. Okay, so we talked about that last time, and we talked about also the meaning of sun clear light and mother clear light. Venerable, do you remember what sun clear light and mother clear light are? What's the mother?
Clear light is when yogis practice going into the clear light in their meditation. So they don't actually, when you're a yogi, you're practicing the dissolution in order to prepare for death. And I believe the mother clear light is actually...
Wait, sorry, I'll just get this quick. So the sun clear light is when meditators, yogis, yoginis, are meditating on the clear light of death. So in the generation stage, is that the sun clear light?
stage.
What would the actual sun clear light be? Would be that clear light experience of the yogi or yogini that is realizing emptiness. That'd be the actual sun clear light, because you're going to try to merge that, meet that with the mother clear light of death. What's the mother clear light? Actual sun clear light, I think, although there might be some things that are not fully qualified sun clear lights, but I think the fully qualified sun clear light would be one where within a living being, the person not in the death process, but by the power of meditation, has caused the winds to absorb into the central channel and uses that subtlemost clear light mind, which is not the clear light of death, but induced by meditation, by the force of meditation, uses that to meditate on emptiness. That would be more the sun clear light. So there might even be stages there also, because if the person has only had a inferential understanding, a conceptual understanding of emptiness with that sun clear light, because that sun, even that clear light mind, although it seems non-conceptualizing, it still can know things conceptually. It can know some things directly also, right? So if that sun clear light knows what we're calling somewhat sun clear light, if it knows it conceptually, maybe that's not the final, most perfect, fully qualified sun clear light. Maybe the most fully qualified sun clear light is one in which the meditator uses that light, that clear light mind, to meditate on emptiness directly, have a direct realization of emptiness. Then what's the mother clear light?
I believe that occurs at the time of death when the winds have dissolved into the central channels. So you have the
Central channels? How many?
central channels. So
Okay.
you have the clear light of death that you use to meditate on emptiness. But the clear light of death.
So the clear light of death, say again? This clear light of death is?
The mind, the clear light of death, and you use that.
What
at the
is the
time of
clear
death
light of
when you've
death? What is the clear light of death?
The clear light of death is when all the winds have dissolved into the central channel and the drop. You've been through all
Yeah.
the dissolutions,
Yeah.
including the red,
In the
white, the
what
red.
is it? What is it? You keep on saying what's cut, like what Theo was saying, that all these things coming before. What is the clear light of death?
or death, when you die.
it's the subtlemost manifestation of the subtlemost mind, to which there's appearance of vacuity, total vacuity, all empty, right? You can qualify it by saying because all the winds, but what is it actually? It's not those other processes before that. It almost sounds like when you're saying it's when the light, it sounds like those are part of the meaning of clear light. I think if you phrased it correctly, there'd be no fault in saying that, but the clear light of death is that subtlemost experience of the mind to which there's all empty. What do we call it? All empty? Or what was it called? All empty, right? Total vacuity, no gross dualistic appearances. Likened to an autumn, a sky at dawn, the clear light of dawn. Because we use that term too. There's a kind of experience if you look outside. Have you ever experienced the sort of clear light just before dawn? Before there's a vibration of even whiteness in the sky, first of all. And then when the sun starts getting up a little further near the horizon, then there's a little bit of red vibration in the sky. Even before that, there's some illumination where everything is very, very clear. And kind of like that, like crystalline. That subtlemost mind, now that's the mother clear light. But the mother clear light here is one that arises due to karma at the time of death. Okay? So at the end of the section, just to read one thing, and Don has a question. At the end of the section we just finished, on page 47, it's talking about ordinary being, near the end, about 3 paragraphs on the bottom. Ordinary beings experience the clear light of death in the manner of its appearing without being ascertained. Remember? Not with a mind of ascertainment. So it kind of appears to the mind, just like someone calling you to dinner while you're watching The Sopranos. Totally engrossed. No, you wouldn't be watching Sopranos. Watching PBS. Okay? That make you happy? O'Reilly and Crash is when Crash is watching O'Reilly Factor, and I call him to do some meditation with me. It appears to his ear consciousness, but completely unascertained. He doesn't pay attention to it. So then it says, mother and son clear lights. The clear light of death is the mother clear light. Okay? The clear light of death. There's nothing that has to qualify it more, but that's the clear light of death. Can you arise from that? If you have a near-death experience, can you come back from the clear light of death? All these people who see the light and then they come back? Probably not, I think. I think clear light of death is one in which all of the airs have absorbed due to karma, and what people experience is, seeing something, I don't know, that must be close to the white appearance, or maybe it's not actually the clear light of death at all. Maybe it's just like when you fall unconscious. Oh, I wanted to mention this in some other time. When you fall unconscious, what's the famous thing, the kind of in the comic books, when someone is punched, or maybe you've experienced when you fall unconscious, what do you see? What is that? What vision is that probably? Probably the fire-like, spark-like vision. So it's said that when you have a violent case of unconsciousness or violent death, the elements don't absorb in the same sequential fashion. Perhaps the fire-like, when the fire element absorbs, and you have the spark-like or star-like appearance, perhaps that's more prominent of the visions. I don't know. But I have a feeling that's what's happening there. So say in a situation like that, when you have some visions that are appearing, if you're not actually dying, you're just becoming unconscious. It might be people that come back. It's not that they were really dead at all or about to die. And they might have been, if they had prolonged their unconsciousness, they might have had some other signs of death. But those are situations where maybe the karma is not finished. It wasn't really the clear light of death at all. But the mother clear light is the final clear light of death, whereas that which dawns through the power of meditation during sleep and waking states while on the spiritual path, because you can use sleep, the clear light of sleep, as the sunlight, to meditate on the sun-like clear light, sun clear light. While on the spiritual path, this is called the sun clear light, the clear light that dawns through the power of meditation. So not just the clear light that dawns by the power of falling asleep. What's the crucial thing here? Like, there is a clear light that appears every night when you fall asleep. Maybe not fully qualified, but is that the sun clear light? Or not? You say yes, Miriam says no. It has to be induced by the power of meditation. So even, so the meditator, yogini who has practiced in meditation to observe, to cause the airs to absorb, and to observe these dissolutions, at the time of sleep, they also use that process to observe what is naturally happening. They don't have to exert as much control to bring the airs there, but they observe it because they've observed it in meditation before by the force of meditation. Lama Yeshe, when he was in the last decade and a half of his life, last 20 years, so he spent much time taking naps, and some people might have thought he was lazy, but he was actually meditating. He used to told various indications to Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who chronicled these things, that it seemed Lama was using that situation, whatever occurs, like Shantideva, others, to meditate on the clear light of sleep by the power of meditation. So that became meditation on the sun clear light, meditating on emptiness. Then when the time of death comes, you have something to mix with the mother clear light. Otherwise you don't have any, there's no sun clear light. Sun clear light is coming about from the power of meditation, right? So then there's a question. Oh, then it says, meditation that mixes these two during the clear light of death is called mixing the mother and son's sun clear lights. There's a famous sutra of meeting of father and son. Here the word is mixing. This is the mixing of the mother and son clear lights. Then there's a question, a qualm. Is the clear light of death in general fully qualified clear light? Don? Why not?
Because it needs to be mixed with the wisdom realizing emptiness.
To be really fully qualified. Yeah, exactly. To be really fully qualified clear light, the actual clear light. You know, you might say, we use the word clear light to talk about the clear light of sleep, the clear light of death. So is the clear light of death or the clear light of sleep fully qualified? Not really. Really what's meant by clear light is the subjective mind, the subtlemost subjective mind, this clear light mind, realizing emptiness directly. That's the actual clear light. And in order to do that, you have to mix the mother and son clear lights. Okay, that's pretty clear now, right? Yeah,
Practice completion or generation stage practice.
Well, if it's the actual sun clear light where you're realizing emptiness directly or inferentially, it must be completion stage, right? Because on the generation stage, you don't actually cause the airs to enter into the central channel on the completion stage. I mean, on the generation stage. Only on the completion stage can you cause them to enter in. Don, you had a question?
Yeah, it's kind of a question about Sutra and Tantra. This is a tantric practice of meditating on this generation stage. Am I right about that, I guess, is my first question? Yes?
In the generation stage, we do indeed, in the Highest Yoga Tantra, this is an essential part of meditating on this dissolution so that we can take the clear light, the simulated clear light of death, and use that to develop the divine pride of being Dharmakaya, to take that, to transform that into the Dharmakaya, and then so forth. Yeah. So we do meditate.
A practitioner who has reached the path of seeing, say.
Yeah.
if they didn't know Tantra, what would be their next step as far as enlightenment?
They would continue along the path of meditation until the end of the path of meditation. According to the treatises on Highest Yoga Tantra, they would go all the way to the very end of the Bodhisattva path, but they wouldn't be able to attain enlightenment by that alone, actual enlightenment. At that point, in their meditative equipoise, they would be awakened by the Buddhas, not like the Hinayana Arhats are awakened from their equipoise, but they're awakened and they're told that they need to take this empowerment. So they're given the I think the knowledge, wisdom, empowerment. And they imagine embracing a consort, and maybe actual, emanation of Buddhas arise, and through the power of that, they're able to generate the subtle mind realizing emptiness. Because at this point, the Bodhisattva, according to the Bodhisattva path, there's no way explained in the Bodhisattva path to actualize the subtlemost mind and to use it to meditate on emptiness. That's completely in the province of Tantra. Pardon?
Like a 10th bhumi?
On the 10th bhumi, at the end of the 10th bhumi. And so it's said, in some places it says that unless a Bodhisattva encounters Tantra before the path of seeing, they inevitably progress for this other, countless great eon until the 10th bhumi. And, when they're almost Buddha, but they're still, to get rid of the final obstructions to omniscience. It's not enough to just continue to meditate on the sutra path, according to Tantra, Highest Yoga Tantra. They have to then be initiated and receive this this kind of knowledge wisdom initiation, I think, and then they achieve enlightenment in that form. So this is another reason we can think how fortunate we are to have met Tantra, because it's not always taught, and to meet it before. Anyone here already passed the path of seeing? Okay, Dorji's. So, okay. Fortunately, if he'd already reached the path of seeing, he would. So, yeah. So we're going to continue, after the break, we're going to continue. We started last time on the stages of achieving the bardo, the intermediate state, on page 49. So interesting, page 49. How many days is the maximum one can remain in the bardo, according to the sutras? 49 days. Maybe Jeffrey Hopkins planned it that way, I don't know. Page 49. Conspiracy theory, right? Okay. So 49 days. So, just one question before we break. When the bardo being, every 7 days the bardo being, if it has not yet found a rebirth, has a minor death experience in the bardo, is that considered, is that a time when the bardo being can meditate on the clear light of death? Is that a death experience? Is that, or is that, does the bardo end and then there's a death and then there's a rebirth and then there's another bardo, or is it all considered bardo state? Mini deaths, that's what I said. Many or mini? No. Many? Not mini. Both many and mini. But that's not actual death. Actual death is something that precedes the bardo. An actual rebirth, even though there's a mini death, you might call it a mini death, and arising again in another bardo body, which might be different than the last one, according to Asanga, that's not considered actual rebirth. Okay, only rebirth is at the end of the bardo, when the bardo ends and one enters into another one of the 6 realms. So let's have a little break. So let's continue on in the bardo. We've spent a lot of time on the death state. Now is that okay? Okay. So we're going to get to the bardo. What does bardo mean? Intermediate. Barma means in between. Bardo means the intermediate state. So on page 49, the stages of achieving the intermediate state. We read this last time, but let's just review. At the end of however long, howsoever long, the mind of clear light abides without any movement that's within the body, right? If you're talking about death from a human being, a slight movement that is a mere quiver occurs within it. I think this is referring to when the karma to remain in the clear light of death has ceased, the subtlemost wind that acts as its mount has a physical movement. That's the same thing we talk about sometimes when we meditate. We try to meditate on the clear light of death, and that meditation might exist for some period of time very clearly, and then just by the karma there'll be some distraction. So then you use that to imagine the clear light is over, and this initiates the rising from the clear light. At that point, the very subtle wind and mind leave the opened drop of the white and red constituents at the heart and pass outside. So they leave the heart, so the mind always leaves from the heart, but it's going to come out some other, often it's said to come out of an orifice of the body. I think it can also come straight out, because it has no gross material, but the Buddha explained in some sutras that if it left various portals of the body, that indicated the person would be born in various states. We'll see a little bit later. The body is left, and a body of the intermediate state is established. As soon as the clear light of death finishes, what's the next kind of mental state? What would it be called? Mark, what would it be called? Wouldn't it be the black near attainment? The reverse order, because we come into the clear light a certain way. The subtlemost mind before that was the black near attainment. And then when we exit the clear light of death, we start getting a grosser mind in the same order. So the first black near attainment, red increase, white appearance, then the 80 indicative conceptions arise, and so forth. So as soon as that black near attainment, the mind of black near attainment arises, the person has a bardo body at the same time. The body is left, and the body of the intermediate state is established. Simultaneously, the white constituent at the heart descends. It doesn't mean, simultaneously. It leaves the heart and appears at the lower sexual organ, as it takes some time. But at that point, the white element leaves, and the red constituent rises and emerges from the nose, from the nostrils. So it emerges from the nose, almost sounds like it can emerge in the pores or something, emerges from the nostrils. The wind that serves as the mount of the clear light of death and has 5 lights acts as a substantial cause of the body of the intermediate state. It says has 5 lights, that means like the aura. What are the 5 colored lights of the 5 Buddha families? White, red, blue, yellow, and green. Has that kind of radiance. But I think the color of that subtlemost clear light mind itself is white. It's connected with the life-sustaining wind. Sometimes, it says, the color of the very subtle life-bearing wind itself is white, but it emits a radiance of 5 colors, white, red, yellow, green, and blue. Sometimes, like for instance, when you do the certain practices, you imagine Vajradhara comes into your heart, like in Guru Yoga, and you can use that to imagine now the death evolution, by the blessing of your guru's mind entering into your subtle mind. You can imagine all of the environment dissolving into you and start to imagine the dissolution of the elements. And then at the end of that clear light, in some of the sadhanas, one arises as Vajrasattva, who is white in color. You don't arise, it doesn't say that you arise as Vajradhara, blue in color. So one of the reasons it's given sometime is because that subtlemost clear light mind, the wind element itself, although it has a radiance of 5 colors, the wind element itself is white in color. So it's auspicious to maybe attain the illusory body or something.
Amount for the clear light of death, is that synonymous with most subtle mind?
The clear light of death. So is the clear light of death the most subtle mind? What do you think? Yeah. No, there's a subjective clear light and an objective clear light, remember? In fact, the end of 48. In general, clear light is of 2 types. The objective clear light is the subtle emptiness of inherent existence. That's the actual clear light, not just the appearance of vacuity that appear. You remember we were talking about fully qualified clear light. So the fully qualified objective clear light, the object, is the appearance of non-inherent existence, the appearance of emptiness to that subtle mind. And the subjective clear light is the wisdom consciousness realizing this emptiness. That's the actual fully qualified subjective clear light. If you just said the clear light of death, the subjective mind would be one which might or might not ascertain the appearance of the objective clear light, the gross one, not the fully qualified one, which is just the appearance of the cessation or stoppage of all dualistic, coarse dualistic appearances. It's only through the force of mindfulness, bringing that mindfulness to the time of death, that subjective clear light can give rise to wisdom, recognizing this appearance as the appearance of emptiness. And then that subjective clear light mind becomes fully qualified. Otherwise, it's just seeing empty, you know. So this life-bearing wind also acts as the cooperative cause of the mind of the intermediate state. So this is kind of interesting. The mind of the clear light of death acts as the cooperative cause of the body and the substantial cause of the mind of the intermediate state. So what is this talking about? What's substantial cause, cooperative cause? The first time you read it, you just went, yeah, okay. Well. What does that mean? What's the substantial cause of something? Actually, the word in Tibetan, it doesn't use the word substance. It says nirlen. I remember Lama Zopa Rinpoche when he was closely taken. Nirpa means close. Lempa means taken. So nirlen gigyu, or this, what's translated as the substantial cause, means the cause which gives rise to the continuity of that thing. Like, say, what's the substantial cause of this cup, of this mug, would be the clay, let's say, that was, or whatever, the ceramic or whatever, the material that was made into the shape. What are the substantial causes of the sprout? The seed and the elements within it that then became the next instant when the sprout comes out. What are the cooperative causes of the sprout? Heat, water, moisture, loving attitude. No, I don't know if that makes much, but maybe some people believe that. I don't know. Does plant have mind? Generally, plant doesn't have mind, right? So how could it, you know, like some people play music and they talk to their plants. Remember the experiments when someone comes into the room? You did that? And you're...
I talk to my plants, and you should see my house. It has ivy growing all around it. It's incredible.
Oh, it's incredible. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some people did experiments where they had some kind of sensitive electronic apparatus that measured the electrical activity of the leaves, and someone would come in and take one of the plants and chop it up, and they would notice the activity that leaves of the other plants would sort of go. And then later when that person came in again, the leaves would start to go like that, whereas someone else came in, they wouldn't. So they thought, could they blame him? So some people thought that showed that the plants had mind. But
Take the water from your offering bowls and you put it on the plants, then they bloom.
maybe other reasons for that, but we're talking about this, whether plants have mind. From a Buddhist perspective, the plants themselves don't have mind, nor do stones or tables or other. You learn something in every class, see that? Nor computers in general. But it's possible for mind to enter into them. So I think, generally, when people talk about, is it Irish kind of mythology, fairies, or is that Scottish? Fairies sounds like Irish. Scottish, okay, Scottish. I think there are various kinds of spirits that inhabit the plant world, and it may be that those are sentient beings, but they are not the plants. It's just like the plants may be their kind of their residence or their abode or the forest. So there might be some kind of effects you can measure that their influence, the influence of the sentient beings, the spirits on the plants, may be measurable, but it's not that the plants, I don't think the plants sense or get excited or whatever. I don't know, but anyway. But we're just talking about cooperative, the difference between substantial cause and cooperative cause. Do you get the difference? So what's the substantial cause of the Bardo mind? No, karma is not the substantial. No, death is not the Frank?
Backwards, because you said substantial cause of the mind, and it says substantial cause of the body.
Yeah, but there also is there's a substantial cause of both. I'm asking you, what's the substantial cause of the Bardo mind? Pardon? Yeah, the previous moment of mind, the mind continues and becomes the Bardo mind. So that's the substantial cause. What's the cooperative? Because there's two things together. There's the, maybe here's good. Here's the mind, and here's the wind that acts as its mount. Okay? The mind itself is inseparable from that wind. It can't be that you can take the mind off from the wind. I did, but in reality, that's why it's not, analogies are not always perfect, but they're inseparable, like the two sides of a coin or something. And don't try to say that you can use a saw and cut this coin in half, because then it's no longer a coin. So the mind itself, when it's the substantial cause, its substance becomes the substance of the black near attainment and the red increase of the Bardo. So it becomes it's the substantial cause of the Bardo mind. That's good. And the wind, however, is the cooperative cause. Without the wind, the clear light of death couldn't exist, nor could the black near attainment of the reverse order exist. So it's said that the wind, the subtlemost wind, is the substantial cause of the Bardo mind. Is it not the substantial? Is a cooperative cause. So what do we talk about the Bardo body? What's the substantial cause of the Bardo body? The saucer or the cookie? The wind or the mind? The wind, the subtlemost wind, actually becomes the substance of the Bardo body. Same as the dream body is actually emanation in a dream of your dream body is actually emanation of that subtlemost wind. Also, when we talk about illusory body, like in Tantra, it's actually the subtlemost wind that takes the shape of the illusory body that you've meditated on, of the deity and so forth. So the subtlemost wind is something substantial. It has a color and shape. The mind itself doesn't have color or shape. Mind is something which is non-material, right? It is interrelated with the wind. They're of one unit. They're inseparable, but they're still different. They're discernibly different. So the subtlemost wind becomes the substantial cause of what, Frank? Bardo body. And becomes the cooperative cause of the Bardo mind, because the Bardo mind couldn't exist without that previous moment of the subtle wind. So that's what's being gotten at here. That's what the implication is here. Does that make sense? Now you have a clear mental image of the saucer and the cookie when you have this. What's the cooperative cause of the Bardo body? We said clear light mind, right? So here at text it says the life-bearing wind also acts as the cooperative cause of the mind of the intermediate state. Well, let's look at the sentence before. The wind that serves as the mount of the clear light, that's the subtlemost wind, right? And has 5 lights, acts as the substantial cause of the body of the intermediate state, the Bardo body. This is the substance that becomes the Bardo body. The life-bearing wind also acts as the cooperative cause of the mind of the Bardo being. Okay. You don't believe the next thing? The mind of clear light acts as the cooperative cause of the body and of the Bardo being, and it acts as the substantial cause of the mind of the intermediate state being, the Bardo being. Yeah, or reversed. Yeah. The mind, the clear light of mind, the clear light of death is a consciousness, right? So it can only become the substantial cause of something else, which is consciousness. So it is the substantial cause of the Bardo mind. Its substance becomes the Bardo mind. It acts as the cooperative cause because it has to be there to give rise to the Bardo being, to the Bardo body. So it becomes the cooperative cause of the Bardo body. What's the substantial cause of the Bardo body? The subtlemost wind. That becomes the substance of the Bardo body.
So if I'm saying it's the cooperative cause of the Bardo body, is it kind of like saying, but through the force of karma, the Bardo body comes about?
It's saying that although the substance of the Bardo body is the substantial cause of it, is the subtlemost wind, without the cooperative cause of the subtlemost mind, the Bardo body would not arise. So the subtlemost mind doesn't become the substance of the Bardo body, but its presence is necessary for the Bardo body to arise.
That subtlemost mind doesn't have anything to do with karma, or does it?
Well, it has something to do with karma, but
It's not like it would disappear if you removed all of your karma and klesha.
no, because there's no way to the subtlemost mind and subtlemost wind, from the point of view of Sutra and Tantra, is indestructible. It has existed since beginningless time and will continue to exist up until and through the attainment of enlightenment. The subtlemost wind becomes the substantial cause of what eventually? The Sambhogakaya, eventually, at the time of enlightenment. And it becomes the cooperative cause of the Dharmakaya, the wisdom Dharmakaya. The subtlemost mind at the time of enlightenment becomes the substantial cause of what? The wisdom Dharmakaya, the actual omniscient mind. It's sort of the same, it's consciousness. It becomes the substantial cause of that. And it becomes the cooperative cause of the Sambhogakaya body. The emanation body, kind of like, in this sense, kind of like the Bardo body. So when we talk about rebirth, we'll talk about that. So here in Tantra, usually it says that the Nirmanakaya is emanated, although, when we talk about attainment of enlightenment, it's not as though first you attain, like the question that came several times before, it's not as though first you attain the Dharmakaya, and then you attain the Sambhogakaya or not, and then you attain the Nirmanakaya. But the Nirmanakaya emanation body is said to be emanated from the Sambhogakaya. The Sambhogakaya is a subtler body than the Nirmanakaya. Is that right? Subtler? I can't say subtler? Okay, I thought you were correcting me and saying more subtle. Oh, okay. No. I don't correct my teacher. Don't say that.
There's some guru devotion for you.
Venerable, what's the difference between the Sambhogakaya and the Nirmanakaya?
I think this because of this yoga is more subtle, right? And only the great bodhisattva can access.
Can the arhats see the Sambhogakaya?
Arhat. I think so.
No.
No.
So there are different qualities. Like what are there 5 qualities of the Sambhogakaya? One of them that it exists till samsara ends. It exists in a highest pure land. It teaches the Mahayana doctrine continuously. It's perceivable only by Arya Bodhisattvas. I can't remember, what's the 5th one? So the Sambhogakaya is a subtle, like for instance, in Tantra, when you arise from the clear light state and you imagine a subtle, whether it's a seed syllable or a nada or something very, very subtle, first of all, that's supposed to represent the Sambhogakaya. And then thinking, if I remain in this state, I can only teach the Arya Bodhisattvas. So I must appear as a Nirmanakaya, because the Nirmanakaya, can the Arhats see the Nirmanakaya, Venerable? Even ordinary sentient, ordinary humans or animals that have good karma can see the Nirmanakaya. Can every human see the Nirmanakaya? Probably not. You have to be I mean, it's not as though you'd be sitting in the assembly and everyone's looking at the Buddha and you see nothing. But you don't see the Buddha you see your own projection, your deluded projection, like the stories of, was it that famous naughty Drupa, you knew immediately when I said naughty, Drupa Kunle, in Lhasa coming and or other beings, they would come to the Jokang in Lhasa and not see the the statue of Buddha, or some other people during an assembly when someone was giving a oral transmission, lung, of the scriptures of the Prajnaparamita, and some people that had very impure karma, they didn't see or hear that. They thought the person was up at the top chopping meat, because of their impure appearance. So it's possible if you don't have pure appearance that you don't see that you don't actually perceive the Nirmanakaya. You have to have pure karma to perceive the Nirmanakaya. But arhats, certainly arhats, they perceived the hearers, those who were the followers of Buddha in the Hinayana tradition, they perceived the Nirmanakaya because he turned the wheel of Dharma and so forth. But they couldn't perceive the Sambhogakaya. It's said that when you reach a certain state in the Mahayana path, was it on the path of preparation or where? You can actually receive teachings from a statue. You actually perceive the Sambhogakaya within the statue. I remember at Manjushri Institute once, many years ago, we had a picnic outside and someone had brought a statue of Guru Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche. And Lama Zopa was looking at it and then going, and so he was listening. It's just like, it was totally eerie.
I always was confused with the Nirmanakaya, actually. So, for example, all our gurus, if they're recognised as Rinpoches, would you say that now they're manifesting the Nirmanakaya from being, lamas in past lives? And
no, not the word tulku, Tibetan word tulku, is the same word we use for Nirmanakaya. Trul means nirmana, emanation, and ku means kaya, body. But that doesn't mean that even the lamas who are recognized as tulkus, as reincarnated lamas, that they are the Nirmanakaya Buddha. It's just a name, another name that's used like that, because they supposedly one recognizes them as having the ability to come back, having some control over their emanation. It doesn't mean that they're actually Nirmanakaya. Actual, I would say fully qualified again, real Nirmanakaya, there are different kinds of Nirmanakaya. There's the supreme Nirmanakaya that comes with showing the 32 major marks and 80 minor signs, turns the wheel of Dharma and so forth. Then there's the artesian Nirmanakayas that appear as like the master craftsman and so forth. I don't mean just woodmaker in Santa Cruz or something, but some kind of master craftsman, sometimes to lower the pride of other craftsmen and so forth. And they're different, then sometimes the Nirmanakaya emanates as bridges, and the Buddha, the Buddha can emanate in these various forms. So, yeah, of course. Sure, no need to say gurus, but just because someone is called, has the name or the title Tulku, doesn't mean that even in Tibetan Buddhism, doesn't mean that they are recognized as Buddhas. Because many times they say, even on the tantric path, sometimes can take many, many lifetimes to achieve enlightenment. So someone, even the first life, one might be called a reincarnated Lama, recognized that way. It doesn't mean that one is already enlightened. But there's certainly more, in general, more worthy of veneration than we are. So we can think they're objects of veneration.
And it's not to be confused with guru devotion and your ability to perceive your guru as perfect.
Right, that's another subject. Right, we still, even if someone were not even called a tulku, we still practice, because the Buddhas can appear in all of these different forms, in ordinary forms, because we don't have the pure karma to see the guru, the Buddha, in Nirmanakaya form, or even if the Buddha appeared right now, you might say, well, Buddha's really stingy, is really self-centered. Why doesn't he come now? I want him to come. What's the word that you'd use? You wouldn't say stingy. What would you say? Self-centered, selfish, But we don't have even the Buddha appeared, we don't have the karma to see them in Nirmanakaya form right now. So the Buddhas appear in impure form, having faults, out of compassion for us so that we can see them, and in that form they act as conduits for the Buddha's holy speech, the highest of the activities of the Buddha. Of the various activities, it said the activities of speech, turning the wheel of Dharma, is the most important, the most highest. And it's only through, it's via recognizing them in that form that we receive the blessings within our consciousness of the Buddhas. Whether someone is actually Buddha or not is not what determines the blessings, right? Remember when we talked about Guru? It depends on our mind. That's what the whole practice of Guru devotion is about. Well, let's continue. So you understand cooperative cause, substantial cause. It's pretty simple once we got it, right? At first, you might have gone over it and said, what are they talking about? It's gobbledygook. Okay. Independence on this, the intermediate state, which has a body of wind with the aspects of a human being, as which one is to be reborn, is established in actuality, separate from the old aggregates of the previous lifetime, which was a fruition of prior action. So we say the previous, fruitional aggregates, the old fruitional aggregates. So what this means is, upon the exit from the clear light of death, simultaneously one experiences the mind of black nirattainment of the bardo. So one has a bardo mind. Simultaneously then one has the bardo body at the same time, which is, what kind of bardo body can you have? Can you have say womb-born bardo body? Warm, heat and moisture born? Egg born? How is the bardo body born? Spontaneously born. So, and when there's spontaneous birth, one of the qualities is that the being appears spontaneously with all of the limbs and organs simultaneously. They don't arise gradually. It's said that the bardo being always has all the senses. Like, say, for instance, you might think the bardo being has the shape of the next life. If you're going to be born as a human, it has the shape of a small human being. It won't look exactly like what you're going to be born as, but like a small human being. And you might think, well, if I'm going to be born deaf, maybe, or blind, maybe the Bardo being would be blind. But that's incorrect, because the Bardo being is being spontaneously born always has all the faculties intact in totality, and all the limbs, the body, arise simultaneously at the moment of the black near attainment, because that body arises from the substantial cause of what? Mark? The most subtle wind, right? That was present with the clear light. Yeah, very good. Okay, that's good. Okay. Yeah. So what's the cooperative cause of the calzones that Mark brought tonight? This car he drove them in was not the cooperative cause. Was not the substantial cause. Did I say substantial cause? Cooperative. Okay, you could say the cooperative cause was that. The cooperative cause were the cooks who kneaded it together, the heat of the oven, even though they're not hot now, and so forth. The substantial cause were the tomatoes and the wheat and the flour and all these other things that became the substance of the calzones. Right? Thank you. There's delicious calzones. One's body in the intermediate state has the shape of the body of the next life. It doesn't mean when the text says human body, that's just talking about if you're going to be born as a human. It has the shape of the body. If you're going to be born as a hell being, the body looks like a hell being. A hungry ghost, it looks like a hungry ghost, or an animal, or human, or a what do you call it? Asura? Here it translates demigod, or a god.
I noticed that you made a gesture like this. Are hell beings small?
Once, Getzo in Italy, when he was talking about, he said, when I was a little boy, and I said, Geshe, you were never, you were embryo, or something little in the womb that big, but you were never a little boy that big, you were a little. So, no, it's just a figure of, not a figure of speech, a figure of gesture, a gesture, small. At that time, what time is that? The exit from the clear light of death and the arisal of the black near attainment and so forth. At that time, the three minds of appearance, increase, and near attainment that were explained earlier appear in reverse order. So that means near attainment comes first from the clear light, then red increase, then the white appearance. Before, when we talked the appearance, increase, and near attainment, that was going toward the clear light. Now we're exiting the clear light, right? The dawning of the radiant black mind of near attainment, of the reverse process, the stoppage of the clear light of death, and the achievement of the intermediate state are simultaneous, right? Does that make sense? Dorji, you're meditating on that, right?
No, I missed what you said. I'm trying to see
if you can remember it. If you have the book, you can read it. The dawning of the radiant... So first, one moment you have the clear light. So the dawning of the black near attainment and the ending of that are simultaneous. Simultaneous with that is the attainment of the Bardo. As soon as you exit the clear light, you're in the Bardo. As soon as you exit the clear light, you have the mind of black near attainment. They're simultaneous. So you are a Bardo being as soon as you have the mind of black near attainment. For many texts, such as the upper and lower Abhidharmas, what are the upper and lower Abhidharmas? The ones you keep on the upper shelves and the lower shelves? Or what does that mean, upper and lower? Upper means the Mahayana Abhidharma, which is the one written by a Sangha, is the Abhidharma, what? Samuchaya. And the lower Abhidharma doesn't mean that it's inferior. It's talking about the lesser vehicle of mainly about the Vaibhashika school from the Sautrantika point of view, is the Abhidharma Kosha, written by, Vasubandhu. Okay? So for many texts, such as the upper, the Mahayana, and the lower, Hinayana, knowledges, it means Abhidharma, and a Sangha's treatises on the levels, there were several texts on the Bodhisattva levels and the hearers levels, the bhumis and so forth. All of these texts say that the stoppage of the death state, that's the clear light, and the achievement of the intermediate state are simultaneous. So when death stops, the bardo starts immediately. They're simultaneous. Like the movement up and down of the higher and lower ends of a scale. So like a balance, like a teeter-totter. Maybe there's a better example for Dorji. Okay. Teeter-totter, what do you call it? What's the other word? What else? Teeter-totters, of course, what do they call it? No, I mean the toy thing. Is there some other name? Anyway, whatever it's called. Seesaw. Seesaw, teeter-totter. And those who don't know colloquial American. So is it possible that this end can go up and this end stays up? No, unless it's broken, of course. The rising of one end is going to be simultaneous with the lowering of the other end, like a scales. If you put weight on one end of the scale, that goes down and the other end goes up. So it's like that the death state, the clear light diminishes simultaneously as the bardo state arises. Also, since a being of the intermediate state is spontaneously born, all of its major and secondary limbs are established simultaneously. Okay? So it's not like in a womb birth where first there's an embryo that begins to change and looks like some arms, or like your baby. Can you see?
My baby's now got pretty much everything.
Got all its equipment, all the plumbing's there. Okay. Yeah.
What's the major limb and secondary limb? Arms and legs.
Yeah, I think this major limbs, I'm not sure, but different terminology. Major limbs, I think, means the arms and legs, and the minor limbs are like the fingers and toes and the nose and ears and things like that. Maybe. Even the major limbs you could do with that, right? The mind immediately upon achieving the intermediate state is that of near attainment, of the reverse process, right? Near attainment means what? Black near attainment. From it, the mind of red increase of the reverse process is generated. Then, from this, the white appearance arises, and from the white appearance, the 80 indicative conceptions then are generated out of that. At that point, when the 80 indicative conceptions arise, do you still have the white appearance? No. You'll have some kind of red butter lamp appearance. At these times, the signs from the black near attainment to mirage occur in series, but in reverse order from that explained earlier. So that's easy, right? You start from the clear light, becomes radiant black near attainment, red increase, white appearance, butter lamp, fireflies, smoke, mirage, and then you would have the fully conscious bardo being. The bardo being, you hear sometimes people saying the bardo being might hover around and see their body, the former body, and think, oh, what am I doing up here? That's my body. That's not a bardo being, because the bardo being has severed all connection with the previous body and will not recognize that as anything connected with themselves. Sometimes maybe people think the bardo has come back, some spirit has come back. The bardo being the ghost, people might think of the person, but in general, the ghost of the person, if you want to call it that, the bardo being, would not say, I'm Uncle Charlie, or I'm George, or something. They wouldn't have that identification. They'd have no memory of being that person. So generally, it's said that the beings who come back and say those things are not the bardo being. They're actually spirits that hovered around with the being during the lifetime. Like right now, there are many spirits that are connected with us intimately during our whole life. And sometimes they affect us in a good way, if we have good spirits connected with us. Sometimes they are affected bad way. This is the same thing, like smoking cigarettes and other kinds of things cause the white spirits to depart, not only from the altars or wherever you smoke, but also those that are connected with you. And engaging in certain kind of negative activities causes some kind of gladness of the kind of, if there are evil spirits connected with our continuum because of karma, they are gladdened when we do those negative actions. So in the there's a text that's called Jangwa that's performed when people have passed away in the Buddhist tradition. There's one connected with the medicine Buddha that we had the chance of translating. And in one section in this, there is what's called a wrathful purification. So one's going to offer some torma to spirits. One says, Hung, all groups of obstructors, gods, and so forth, abiding at the location of the great mandala, pay attention, and calling them to come. And then in this, it says, there's a long liturgy that one recites, and one says in here somewhere, let's see. Those spirits, those beings that interrupt the life and limb of the attainment of high status and liberation, wherever the deceased person abides, and having passed away, and all the harmful yakshas, flesh eaters, spirits, and so forth, who have taken on the appearance of the deceased, who impersonate the person who they represent, and bring harm to his or her relatives and the world. Be satisfied with this vast offering torma. Abandon all harm and evil, violent intentions. And then asking them to please, to desist from this behavior of confusing, bringing harm to the relatives and the world by impersonating the person. So from a Buddhist perspective, at least from the tantric point of view, the idea that, someone comes in a seance or someone and says that they're your uncle, your aunt, or your mother, or your father, or your son, or your daughter, that is not the actual mind stream. That is some spirit that's come to impersonate, sometimes harmfully, maybe sometimes with some good intention. They know what you did during your lifetime, so they can say things, if you hid something somewhere where the treasure is in the backyard or whatever. So, but that's not surprising because they were with you during your entire lifetime, and they may have lifespans much, much longer than your lifespan. So places that are haunted, people feel that there are spirits there, may not actually be, maybe the spirits of the beings that died there, but in that case, they wouldn't recognize themselves as having died there. But other people who come and impersonate, like, oh, I saw General Custer where did Custer die? Little Bighorn. If you see the ghost of Custer, that's probably not Custer, because he's not going to have the appearance of Custer or say he's Custer. He's somewhere else now. Have to hope the people who are watching this are not attached to General Custer. Custer, not custard. Okay. The mind immediately, okay, we did that. So on page 51, this being of the intermediate state rushes about seeking a birthplace, rushes about seeking odors, fragrances for nourishment. This is why we call them smell eaters or odor eaters. Having a very subtle mental body, which is achieved from wind alone, and having abandoned the coarse body of the elements with heavy and gross flesh, blood, and so forth, it's called the enjoyment body of the basis. Or remember we talked about the clear light of death was called the basic dharmakaya, right? So this bardo body of the impure death, intermediate state, and rebirth, that bardo being is called the basic enjoyment body. Enjoyment body is what? What's the word we use? Sanskrit. Sambhogakaya. Okay, it's not actual Sambhogakaya. It means the body that will transform into Sambhogakaya. It's sort of the substantial cause of the Sambhogakaya. It's what will be purified and become that. It is called the basic enjoyment body in that it is the basis of purification to be transformed into an enjoyment body, or Sambhogakaya. It is also called a smell eater because it feeds on odors. Don, did you have a question?
After just going through this subtle and substantial causes for the Bardo body and so forth, I'm a little confused by having a very subtle mental body which is achieved by wind alone.
Oh. So, if it's a actual body, it's going to have some materiality. So the wind itself is the substantial cause of the body. I think it's called mental body here because the body itself is not gross in that it has gross elements like blood and flesh and other gross elements in it. It's not a mental body in that it's only mentality. Say, for instance, even the bodhisattvas that are said to have mental body when they achieve the path of seeing, whatever body they have, if it has some kind of substantiality, that's the wind element, but it's affected by the mind very much. So it might be in that sense that it's called mental body. In general, though, if it's a body that has any kind of shape or color or visibility, even to other Bardo beings or to clairvoyance, that has to be the wind element. But that's much, much subtler than the gross elements. So I think it's in that sense that it's called a mental body. It's not as though it is only mind. So then there's another question. What example is there for the existence of such an intermediate state? Because remember I told you before that in some of the Hinayana Abhidharma, some schools of the Vaibhashikas, 18 schools of the Vaibhashika, say that there is no Bardo being because they don't see it emphasized in the scriptures they take as important. Other of the Vaibhashikas accept the Bardo being, and certainly the Mahayana accepts it, and the Tantra certainly accepts it. So this is asking, what example is there for the existence of such? How can I get to understand that? What kind of metaphor or example can you give? Answer, nowadays when we go to sleep, the four signs, mirage, smoke, fireflies, and flame of a butter lamp, as well as the four empties, we just talked about, of sleep dawn like those at the time of death, but only briefly. They're not really the same as the time of death because not all the winds are absorbing. If all the winds absorbed like at the time of death, then you wouldn't be able to wake the person up. You know, they'd be like really, I mean, maybe crashes like that sometimes, but maybe sleep more like death. The clear light of sleep, which is coarser than that of death. Why is it coarser than that of death? I think it's coarser than that of death because not all the winds absorb into the heart chakra. So there's still some subtle minds that are present. The clear light of sleep dawns, and when we begin to rise from that, we do so in a dream body. This being like rising from the clear light of death in a body of the intermediate state. So this is the example that they're giving, the dream body. Does anyone experience, we don't usually talk about dream body, do we? When you have a dream, do you think of your dream body?
Sometimes I won't have the appearance of myself, I'll have the appearance of a different body.
What were you, tell me, what kind of body?
I'm a very beautiful woman, I'm naked and I'm red. I've got a third eye and I just...
Well, come on, listen, sleepwalking is another thing. I don't know about sleepwalking. Here we're talking about the dream body. So when you have a dream, when does the dream take place? During the first dissolution of the elements in toward the clear light, before the clear light? Generally, that... No, I'm talking about sleep. You have to, it just mentions here, at the time of sleep, the elements also absorb like the time of death, not as totally, but a yogi or yogini who's practicing and can recognize them can actually see, oh, there's the mirage-like appearance as the earth element is absorbing. And the eyes faculty is absorbing, I can't see as clearly, and then the ear faculty diminishes, and the nose faculty, the tongue and body. And one can actually follow that down to the clear light and meditate on the clear light in sleep. That's one of the special practices of the yogis and yoginis when they're meditating on the completion stage, to recognize those. So when does the dream body occur? It occurs after you've entered into the clear light of sleep, and then in the black near attainment, coming out of that, as the mind becomes a little grosser, somewhat, not gross conceptuality, but somewhat conceptual mind, coming out black, red, and white appearances, then one enters into what has a dream body of whatever the dream that's going to arise out of that clear light in your totally mental experience, but the body that occurs to you is actually an emanation of your subtlemost wind. And it's said that that body can actually travel to other places. And maybe it's a little bit like what people called, in other cases, they call the astral body, you know? Astral body, I think, is not at all like the illusory body, but this dream body is, by analogy, kind of maybe like that. Maybe people can do that. You know, in their sleep, they can actually travel somewhere else. It's said that the bodhisattvas can actually, in sleep, they can, at a certain point, they first imagine, one of the practices of the bodhisattvas is in sleep, imagining emanating many bodies and making offering many water bowls. Who's making water bowls? I can't remember. Right there. You imagine your dream body doing all those bowls in 5 minutes, you know, the 100,000 dream bodies done like that. And they imagine going to the Pure Lands, making offerings to Buddhas. I think at a certain point, one can actually have that kind of experience. The dream body can actually go there. So that body is like the Bardo body. It is actually an emanation of our subtle wind. And it's very much under the influence of our impure karma and whatever circumstances that give rise to the dream experience, when you don't have control over it. You know, you have a nightmare or whatever, you're being chased by the dogs down the lane, or you see some very attractive person and you have some kind of amorous kind of experience like that. Having risen from the clear light of sleep, a dream body is achieved, and we perform the various activities of dream time. It's not as though like there's certain activities that you do, but whatever happens in the dream. Then when we begin to awaken from sleep, or if we go again, usually one will have many episodes of first entering into the clear light, like the mini deaths in the Bardo. One arises as a dream body, has a segment of dream, then enters into the clear light again, then arises into a dream body, has another episode of dream. How do the scientists explain that? What do they call it? REM sleep is the rapid eye movement that's associated when there's more brain activity and one is dreaming. One can verify that. What's the other state, the deep sleep, called? Delta sleep, when the wave just, instead of a lot of alpha and other things, it just had a little bleep that shows that the brain is still there. That's kind of like the clear light. So we know from psychological experiments and measurements that one goes through various periods of the night. And so one has that, one rises as a dream body, and then that body, when one's going to enter into the clear light again, that body begins to, if you blow on a mirror and you leave some moisture, what do you call it, condensation from your breath, and then if you just watch that begins to absorb inward. You know, the outside of it, the outer edges disappear first. So like that, the body of the Bardo being begins to diminish into the heart chakra again, into the subtlemost wind and mind there. Same way that we do when we do the dissolution of the deities in Tantra, right, Venerable? We imagine that absorbing sequentially, down to the heart and then even subtler things. So then when we begin to awaken from sleep, so this is even at the end of all of those episodes, the wind body of dream dissolves from the outside like breath on a mirror, and gathering at the heart, Georgie just put up 5 fingers, okay? Then when we begin to awaken from sleep, the wind body of dream dissolves from the outside like breath on a mirror, and gathering at the heart, dissolves into the very subtle wind and mind that are undifferentiable, are an undifferentiable entity inside the central channel at the heart of the old mental and physical aggregates. Thereupon we awaken from sleep and perform the various activities of the waking state. So this is given as an example of how we can understand the bardo. What kind of example can you explain the bardo? Is it just something someone made up? It's similar to that dreamlike body, and it's something that the yogis and yoginis can actually verify. That actually there's a great similarity. The bardo body does have this kind of subtle body, the cooperative cause of which is the substantial cause of which is the subtlemost wind, and the cooperative cause is the subtlemost mind. So that's the bardo body that we're talking about. Example.
I guess the 8 stages.
It can be slowly. I mean, if you awaken suddenly, your alarm clock goes off, then it may be sometimes when there's something rapid, just like a rapid death, that not all of them are observable, that even they come out of different order. Just like, remember we told the old thing about getting knocked out, you see stars. Maybe the first thing or the most dominant thing that you see is the absorption of the fire element, It's probably, yeah, you would just waking up slowly out of the dream state. Yeah. Okay.
Given that we dream several times during the night, does that imply that we arise in a dream body and then absorb back several times?
I think so. I think that's what we were saying before, that the scientists have said that there are alternate periods of delta sleep, which is kind of like the clear light, and then REM, rapid eye movement sleep, when there's a dream going on. And in fact, they can verify that because when they awaken people in rapid eye movement, they say they were having a dream. When they awaken people out of the delta, they have no memory of any kind of dream at the moment.
Imagine that you enter a dream body, and then you experience dreaming, and then you experience a quiescent state, and you experience dreaming. You didn't necessarily have to come in and out of the body.
If you enter into the clear light again, just like in the bardo body, when you have the mini death, absorbs in the same way. The explanation is the same. It absorbs from the outside, and then a new bardo body arises. According to the lower Abhidharma, Vasubandhu and others, it's not possible that the bardo body that arises after that mini death is a different state. But according to Asanga, it's possible that bardo body, the next mini body that arises, could be different. So in your dream, it could be that you have a succession of the continuity of the dream from that clear light. That maybe they're just part, one part you kind of remember maybe during, I dreamed this, and then I dreamed this, and it might have been one continuity, or it might have been that there was some clear light in between. I don't know. Try tonight. Let's dedicate our merits. We've created some virtuous karma this evening, not just because of the material that we were listening and thinking about, but because of our motivation at the beginning, especially, and the temporal motivations that may have arisen during the time. Think whatever virtue I've created, whatever virtue I have created in the past that has not yet ripened, whatever virtue I will create in the future, may it become the cause of the production within my own mind and in the mind of others, the 2 bodhicittas that have not yet arisen, and whatever may this karma also become the cause of the sustaining of the bodhicitta that has arisen, so that it never decreases in my own mind or in the mind of others due to my activities or my thoughts. And then seal the dedication in the meditation on the emptiness of the 3 spheres, the emptiness of the merits being dedicated, the goals being dedicated to, and the act of dedication, which includes the sense of the person dedicating all of them are empty of true existence. Although they seem very substantial and concrete and real, they can't be found upon analysis. The only way they exist is as conceptual imputations, designations of the mind to appearances.